Mama Magnified, Mama Magnified,
Mama Magnified, eh, Mama Magnified, Mama Magnified, eh, Mama Magnified. Hello, Magnified family. I'm laughing so much because the last time I was chilling like this, I was so scared because I was recording my first opening Mama Magnified intro video for the channel. And here we are. I think it's actually slap bam, it's a month. I actually need to check the date. It'll be interesting if I check the date. I do think it was around the 28th of January when I started. So yay! Happy 1 month to us. Family, all 136 of you guys. Boo, boo, boo. Boo. We're here. So yeah guys, so today I just thought let me record a bit of a story time. I've never done a story time, okay, but here on this channel we do scary things, we do fun things, we do things that make us uncomfortable, we speak about the in-between moments of life, you know, we do all of those things that are not so regular. So I thought, I haven't recorded a story time. Story times are one of the things that made me love YouTube personally, you know, because I really felt like I connected with the people, you know, I connected with the owners of the channel when they told story time. It was a very quick way of getting to know them, a very easy way of getting to know them and relate. Like everything I do here is to relate, you know. One of the best moments have always been, oh, can't believe I know you go through that, you know. So I thought, okay, story time, what am I going to share about, you know? I think I'm going to share about my journey from MJOLO to marriage. I mean, like, guys, also, once we're married and we're prim and proper, why do we act like we were always like, hi, I'm Mrs. Mufokeng. I'm the wife of Mr. Mufokeng. Here are my sons and my children. I'm blessed and highly favored. You know, I'm not a sinner because, you know, I'm being intimate with one man now, the only man that I've known all my life. Guys, we've kissed frogs. I know I have, you know, and I think by the time you guys see this, you would have watched or seen the podcast that I recorded with a very dear friend of mine who happens to be one of our leaders at church. I serve in Sunday school, and I like that her and I were also able to relate about the fact that, you know, we should speak about where we come from and, you know, the mistakes that we made in the past. And now that we have knowledge, now that we are in the light, and now that we are trying to do better, then we can share about where we are. I've never liked the idea of acting prim and proper. Right, let's go into story time. So generally in high school now, I was not the prettiest. I was pretty. I didn't think I was pretty, right? But I was friends with really beautiful people. I'm obviously relating as back then when I didn't see myself as pretty as them. And generally I wasn't the first Roshelwa. Like if you were to put a scheme of people in a row, I was generally the last to be picked. You know, your typical, if it's a Valentine's ball or there's some reason for people to be paired up, you know, I was always last to be picked. So I didn't really start dating early, like super early. I was not the most experienced. But when I got to, I think it was grade 11. No, so I did start dating my first boyfriend in grade 10, I think. And that went pretty well. I think it was grade 10, grade 9, grade 10. We went to the same high school, a gentleman of note, very thoughtful, who actually, as the years went, ended up moving closer to my home, which is where his cousin stays. Very calm gentleman that I dated. It was a good relationship. And then fast forward to when I was like in matric, you know that typical feeling of you're going to like varsity, which is this world that everybody talks about, and now I'm going to varsity with this long-term boyfriend that I've been with. It almost felt like, hi man, you know, I want to go see new people and experience new things, you know. I didn't really at that time think, oh, I'm going into varsity and I'm in a committed relationship. Because one thing about me now once I'm committed, I commit, you know. I don't know if it was just immaturity then, but I just had that thought of, this commitment I've been in is not the one. So I then met someone who was already in varsity. He asked me out, and charmer of note, like the looks, that typical hot guy that every girl turns heads, that ended up turning out to be probably that one, you know, everyone must have gone through that one bad heartbreak, like that heartbreak where like you were supposed to have left long ago and you're like you're clinging onto, you're hanging onto Jesus's, touch the hem of Jesus's garment. But anyway, he was like a hot boy. He was already in varsity go UJ. That time I'm going to UJ next year. I'm about to finish matric. Now all of a sudden I see the long-term relationship guy that I've been with from high school as like, nah, not cool. So cut the long story short, I did start dating this new guy, and I'm obviously not gonna mention names, guys. Lucky for you guys who know who I'm talking about, people who are in my life will know and will connect the dots, but that's not the point. That's not the point of mentioning names. So I dated this now second guy, and by the time the other one found out, which I feel really bad right now in hindsight when you look back, one of those moments where you're like, karma's coming for me. We all know those moments where you're like, I want more, karma is coming for me. So that was one of those moments, because he then found out via the grapevine, and unfortunately we were both from the same hood, so he did find out, of course. But anyway, that was heartbreaking, because he came back and he's just like, dude, let's talk, what's happening, you know? I thought we had a thing. He wasn't angry, he was very mature, so he's like, let's talk, what's happening? But anyway, we moved on. Dated this guy now from varsity, and I actually dated him for pretty long. But to cut the long story short, because I don't want to ramble in this video, we dated, and now I'm thinking, yo, I'm starting varsity with this hot guy, and he was just your general typical, like Chris Brown, man, everybody was mad, like, you know. And unfortunately he was not really like the gentleman that I dated before. You know, he was also just like, I know I'm hot and I can have any girl I want. At the time I didn't know, I'm just saying, giving you guys the story now in hindsight. But we dated, and then because we also live in the same hood now, we also both go to UJ. We became like, you know, we're commuting to school together, first year, second year, third year. He was a year ahead of me, if not two, but as the years went on, he failed some of his modules. Y'all know varsity is not for the faint-hearted, especially when you start getting to both third year, fourth year. Babang end up doing seventh year, but they're still doing their undergrad. So we commuted to school together, we'd go to the library together, we had a bunch of friends together. We were, I won't say power couple, but we were the couple. But what makes it so sad at the end of the day, when I look back, he was cheating on me the entire relationship. I think we dated for about 6 years, because we dated from my first year, and my degree was 4 years, up until I got my first job. So yeah, five years plus. And fast forward, when he then finally, eventually he graduated, even after failing a few times. I had graduated, but he went into corporate before me when I was finishing off. And I think that's where, I'm not gonna say that's where he started cheating, I think that's where I started seeing that he's cheating, because suddenly, Linda, I'm now irrelevant to him. I mean, now he's chilling with corporate people, they work, they're in a different space completely. Now you got your student, your friend, I mean your girlfriend, who's a student in varsity. Like, what do you mean, you know? So it became very evident to me, you know, because actually before he got fully into corporate, he had one subject left, and then he was failing it repetitively. And obviously now it's like, you know, he's old enough to work, so he ended up having a job and then finishing off his module as well. And while he was doing that, that's when he was now, like I said, corporate. He actually worked at a call center, but it didn't matter. Like, at that time you have an income, so you end up living a different life than someone who's a student, and that's why I ended up seeing his true colors. But it wasn't that instant. It took many years, guys, of being cheated on. And I remember the one time where he had to, now literally, you know, when someone has to, he's showing you his actions hoping you'll dump him, and I wasn't, and he had to sit me down, and yo, I'll never forget, guys, this is so embarrassing. I remember he said to me, he had to sit me down, but in a very cocky way also. He's just like, anyway, look, listen, my time with you is up. The work something like he almost phrased it like I was his project, and like he's done his project, he's done now, you know, like he's done his fair share of this little community building project. And he's just like, yeah dude, I'm done, like he fed it like my go aha, you know, but like almost in a, I made you who you are today, and now my time is up with you because I'm Bob the Builder, you know. And guys, sadly, I cried. I begged him to stay. I was like, there's no ways. And in all fairness, you know, we ended up knitting our lives together. Like he used to babysit with me when I'm staying with my sister's kids. I didn't know what life would look like without him. You know, like we go to church together, we study together, on weekends we're together. He ended up in retail as well. Like I'd go to work, like we were just those people. So I think that was my first time of experiencing a true heartbreak that made me feel like I guess I'll make sure up here, you know. But I'm glad that that was the only one, because that relationship could have destroyed me, but it didn't, because I remember one of my mom, like there was one day when my mom could see I'm out of character because I was still staying at home. And I remember my mom, guys, you know, parents, my mom was just like, so now your life is gonna stop because of Wanawa Meumong. What is he doing right now while you are like in shatters and in pieces, and you can't even get up and shower and start your day? You are in now, I was now in a year where I'm starting my first job. Finally, I had completed my BSc. I'm working in a laboratory. Things are looking up for me. I had just gotten my license. I was about to get my first car. And my mama was just like, ma'am, if you don't get yourself right, I go help you. Because my mom's a nurse, and at that time they rotate, but in that few years she was working in the psychiatric ward. So sometimes we would go pick her up from work, or obviously she'd come home and tell us stories about her day. And there was a time when we went to go see her at work, and obviously psychiatric patients are like, their wards are like quite locked up and security is beefed up, and she'd tell us about these stories where like patients would get very violent with them. But my point is, it's patients who are not well mentally. And I remember that day when she found me in tatters, in, you know, like I was never that person who wakes up, showers late, and doesn't start their day. Like I was just like, get up, clean the house, I got plans, I'm going, where we going, where we at. And she could see I was very out of character. She could see us, I was going into a slump. And she's just like, my girl, just for another boy or a man, when you're so young and you have your bright future ahead of you, if the relationship is over, keep it moving, ma'am. Okay. And I remember her saying, Kore, do you want me to go to work with you? You know, must I go to work and you'll get admitted at work? And I think just that statement alone made me realize, yo, shucks, am I actually losing my mind? You know, am I that knee deep in this darkness that she's actually comparing me to her patients at work? And I kid you not, that was the one thing that helped me. And I was just like, actually, you know what? I just faced the heartbreak, and I was just like, it's sore, it's painful, but I need to carry on living my life now. And it was also happening in a time where other things were starting to look up in my life, and I'm glad that I woke up. I need to check if this thing is still recording, because wow. Oh yeah, it is still recording. Okay guys, so anyway, fast forward. So that heartbreak was bad, like, but I think it was one of those relationships where I don't think I knew who I am. I don't think I understood, you know, I like, you know, that typical, just, you're still just happy to be in a relationship, you don't really know who you are, you're still starting out your life, you know, like you're still in that phase. Sharp. Fast forward, after that, the next person that I dated I think 2 of my other exes. But now as I approach like my 20s, guys, like I've always wanted to be a mom and a wife. I've always been a homemaker. So I think that's one of the things that did mess me up. And I mean, now when I'm watching all the teachings on like marriage and how you can be purposefully single while you're waiting on marriage if that's your desire, I really wish I had learned these things and heard these things and these sermons and exposed to these teachings, because I spent the bulk of my 20s wanting to get married so badly because it was my heart's desire. But I also realized that it also ended up I ended up in bad relationships, or not, my judgment of people was not the best, only because I was just like, because I've got this goal in my head, it's like, yeah, what, not, I wasn't just taking anyone, you know, but I think I could have done better in saying, I'm lonely, yes, but we're not, no, you know. So yeah, I was knee deep in this darkness, feeling like, oh my word, my life is over. You know, the typical heartbreak where you just don't put things into perspective. Also, a big part of me is just also like, oh, I so wish, you know, my personal encounters with God or getting to know God better happened so much sooner than it did, because now that I know what I know, and that's the whole point of this, I'm not trying to like share juicy things about my past relationships, but the crux of it is that, you know, when you look back now in hindsight, it really is true that we perish because of lack of knowledge. You know, when you don't know what you don't know, you don't know what you don't know, so you're operating as if you don't know what you would have known. I don't even know if that makes sense, but it does make sense to me, right? So okay, and then the heartbreak took maybe not a few months, man. I think 2-3 months. Like I said, I was also now starting to be in the prime of my life. My first job after graduating, my first car, things are looking up. And by the way, guys, I'm just putting in this now, that guy proper cheated on me. I unfortunately also even found out that he slept with one of my friends who I was doing a BSc with, because I was doing a BSc, he was like doing a BCom, so he also had his BCom friends. I had my BSc friends that we also used to commute with. Someone I was very close with, I found out that he also had sexual relations with her. So when I say this guy was cheating, I ain't talking about no mild and spicy, like curry powder hot, like Nando's cheating. I get to Nando's about again, but it was like last number. Yeah, was spicy, but who cheat there, you know? Okay, fast forward. The last relationship that I had just before I met my husband, it was someone that we had known each other from a while back. He was always pursuing me, but he was always friend zone from my side, like Clara from point A. And what if that was also God's sign? Because guys, wow, that relationship was an entire scam. Plus also, I think the reason why I'm also recording this is just the series Who Did I Marry? This 50-part thing where this lady was sharing about her marriage and how she missed all the red flags. Or I don't know if she missed it. Some of them she actually says, what was I doing? Why didn't I realize that? Or why didn't I leave at that point? Because guys, like, no, man, no, relationships are not meant to be a scam. I think we're just not doing it the right way, you know. But anyway, who's to say what the right way is? That is not my point. So I think all of us indulging in this series to understand what is the crux of it, what is the moral of the story, you know, it really got me thinking, and it gave me a lot of goosebumps to say, yo, God really saved me from, you know, when you reflect back. Yes, it's good where you are now. It's great. It's roses, which it is for me. It's a blessing. It's a testimony. It is, guys, with the right person. And my husband is the right person, is the chosen person, is the God-sent, hand-picked person, right? Which I'm going to do a separate video on. But when you look back now to like the trenches you were in and the darkness you were in based on the decisions you were making, repetitively making bad, wrong decisions that could end you up, you know, the consequences of those choices were supposed to have been far worse than where I ended up before meeting my husband. And that's one of the things that also keep me so driven to never forget about God's grace in my life. Because guys, God right there, uli in the dirt with the pigs, he's there protecting you. He's like, you, my child, but I'm still covering you. My grace is still there for you, you know, and he'll wait for you for the day that you're going to come back and repent. But until then, he's still there. He really is a father. He's a parent who just, I'm sure when we're making all those weird, annoying decisions, he's just like, yo, that's why mameli. So even with this relationship, met him, like I said, he was pursuing me from Khale. And then years later, we were working, we got our own places, we're good. He pursued me again. Like I said, now, bad decisions. My judge of character, I don't think it was good. Again, it's that poison of this drive of like really wanting to get married, you know. You almost would say even at any cost. Because guys, I'll be honest with you guys, we were even trying to conceive with that guy. Like, that's how Delulu I was now when I look back, because we didn't even date for long, and that guy showed who he was from earlier days, you know. And I still went on with it thinking, oh my gosh, you know. But what I like about this particular relationship is that I didn't stay in the rubbish behavior. I didn't take it very long, you know. But my point then is, even from the start, the type of person he is, when I look, like, he is not my caliber of person. He's not. But because sometimes he's so, you know, the pressure of wanting to get married, and I'm getting old, and I think even for some of us, or well, women now who are, you know, we're very strong in our careers, like women these days, we're just on it, you know. We're taking care of our mental health. We are, you know, we are on point with our finances. We are driven, we are focused, you know. So I think that also, even now in your head, you're just like, all these other boxes are ticked, you know. Hoshota this one of getting married. Dated this guy. He was a complete scam, but in the beginning it didn't really show, because he's someone that I've known from long ago. He also knew, or we knew people like in common circles. So in the beginning it looked like, coolio, you know. Guys, have you ever, okay, so he had his own place, I had my own place, so it's either we would visit each other at each other's places. But even when one was visiting the other at the other's place, when he was over at my place, guys, he would come on a Friday, because he stayed in another city or town. I don't want to mention, because people will connect dots, but he stays in Pretoria, I stayed in Joburg. And on Fridays, when he would come to my place in Joburg, guys, he would treat me like a hotel, because he would come on Friday. I mean, I would think you're coming to see your person, your boo thing. He'd come on Friday, chill, take a shower, get into his clean, fresh clothes after work, gone. Like, how? Gone till when? The AMs. Come back, the AMs. And Lesocho's cooked. Lesocho's washed his laundry. Guys, that analogy of the milk, cow milking, bang. The guy already has the cow. Why would he? Bang, he has the milk. Why would he buy the cow? Now I was the milk, but I was giving. He was worthy of. He was worthy of the milk and not the cow, but I was giving him the entire cow, and he was worth of even a drop of milk. Guys, his behavior, I had almost hit after hit, guy. Like, he was not bothered, and I'd just be like, my guy, how? I thought we're in a relationship, we don't even spend time together, we don't even whatever. You're treating my house like a hotel, you know. Well, when I would go to his place, he'd be stay put, you know. I guess he didn't have a choice. But when I look back at it, that was not a relationship I was even supposed to get into. And to top it all off, in all of that, we were trying to conceive. I mean, how dare I? Hello? How dare I? In all of that, we can be so set in our ways of saying, nah, I'm going for this. Like, God is wasting my time. I'm going for this. Guys, when I look back now, I get goosebumps sometimes. You know, when I look back at, obviously we didn't end up conceiving. We ended up starting a business together. Doof. I had the business idea, the prototype, all the ideas. And unfortunately, or fortunately for him, but unfortunately for me, I had the money for it. I funded that business. He kept the business. Till today, he's still running it. And unfortunately for me, by the time my senses came back and I realized, girl, you're not doing this again, okay? I'm glad that it didn't take me that long, but we were so knee deep in the business that I had funded. I think by the time I decided to end the relationship, outside of tidying up whatever little clothes that were in my place, put them into a refuse bag, asked him to come fetch them. He didn't come fetch them. They were lying outside my place for a bit. Eventually, I put them back into the house. And next year, the following year, when it was winter, because most of those things were like jackets and stuff, only then does he realize his wardrobe is and he calls me up asking for his jackets. Mind you, guys, this relationship didn't even end amicably. Like, he just disappeared. Like, he just carried on living his best life. And even that was a blessing for me as well, but I felt so disrespected, so used, so dirty, so unworthy, so unclean. I didn't even feel worthy to go back to God and repent. I felt so, there was a lot of shame attached to it, more so because I should have known better, you know. And in hindsight, when I look back, one of my big prayers is, Lord, thank you that you preserve me to not even end up falling pregnant by this guy's child. And on top of that, my friends, when the relationship ended, by the time I did the accounting books, for him to keep the business, he was supposed to pay me back 76,000 rand, which he didn't. There was never even a discussion had about that. He just kept it moving, kept the business till today, which is a good solid, what, 8 years, 9 years later. And I've heard from my people around me that he's still running the business. People still follow him on socials. And I remember some of my closest friends were just like, friend, there's no ways. We want our money. And I was like, guys, you know what? You know when you're so deflated, and in hindsight, you just like, it could have been worse. If I was pregnant by this guy's child, I would have been bound and reminded of, living in this deep sin. So it's cool. God's karma will karma the best way than our, half-baked karma. So I'm just sharing this because that's one of the things. That's my last relationship before meeting my husband. When after that, I really had to just spiritually, it felt like I had to withdraw. I had to be numb. I had to go back to the drawing board. I had to do a lot of, outside of repenting, but like a lot of reflection to be like, girl, the bus is gonna crash. We should not wait for this bus to crash. Because I was so shaken, guys, realizing what would have happened if I had fallen pregnant by that guy's child, guys. And I don't say this lightly, because I understand now those things become so complicated now. Blended family, I cannot imagine having met my husband right now, having the life that we have, that I'm blessed with, because I believe that was written in the stars. But having that with now having had a child with this guy, who, by the way, I won't even discuss how bad his karma did come for him, and I still felt bad for him. I don't want to mention what karma came for him, because it's very, very sensitive and sad, and people who sort of know him are going to connect the dots, and that's not the point of this video. But I had to understand my part in that. I had to take accountability for that. I had to rewind and say, but it was at this point I was supposed to say no. It was at this point I was supposed to discern. It was at this point where I had no business being there, doing that, making those decisions on my own. So, having said that, I just really want to share it from that perspective to say, had I known then what I know now. We have so many sermons now at church where they talk about being purposefully single, and they guide everyone on the journey of being single while you're waiting on God for marriage. How to do that gracefully, how to keep yourself for marriage, how to carry yourself for marriage, how to stay purposeful while you're waiting for marriage. A part of me is just really like, man, I wish I was there in my single years. I wish I knew all of that. I wish I knew God better then. But I guess now that you are in the light and you know that information, it's about what you're going to do going forward with that. And one thing I'm very cognizant of is I don't like this packaged, I'm prim and proper, today I'm married because I'm clean and pure, then I'm like this complete package. We really have to relate to people and remind ourselves where we come from and where God has just like excavated us from this mud and this dirt. And so that when they see who you are today and you relate about this God who's just like gotten you out of the worst of the worst, that didn't even end up in the worst of the worst, but his grace was still there, then people can relate, and understand that you are not this, complete picture that looks a refined diamond, but you come from. Yeah, guys, so I think, like I'm saying, this lady, or this Risa lady who shared about her encounter, about, who was she married to, and like I said, the podcast that I shot with, which you guys would have seen by the time I post this video, when we were talking about, where we come from when we were living in the world and doing worldly things, and who we are now. So that's why I wanted to share a little bit of my MJOLO story, but more on relating to how God, even in those trenches, he still was just like, I'm going to cover you, my child. He's so gracious, God. Oh, guys, God is just, man, like his grace is really is supernatural. I don't know any human being who's gracious or who has the capabilities of being gracious like God, because wow, so I'm gonna record a part 2 with my husband, so that hopefully we then unpack from the time that we now I've met him, how God brought him into my life, because that in itself can testimony on its own, how God really just did the things. And remember, if God says he knew you when you were formed in your mother's womb, it means for me, he already knew my husband. He already knew who he is. He already knew when I'll meet him. He already, like, our story of how we met, the transitioning into marriage, deserves a video on its own, and I want to do it with him. So yeah, I really hope you guys really enjoyed and got the crux of why I'm sharing this, because wow, you know, you know, and I really hope this helps someone. I really hope this just someone relates to this, and just I really hope as Christians we realize that we shouldn't carry ourselves in this perfect petty picture, you know. That's not who or what Jesus was when he was winning souls. That's definitely not how he did it. And I think sometimes that's where we lose it as Christians, who now that we are in the light, we really act like we are the be it and end all, and we know that's not true. So yeah guys, I'm gonna leave it here. Mama magnified, Mama magnified, Mama magnified. Until I see you guys next time, enjoy.